Hadith, because I said so. This hadith is from Sahih Muslim 1337b. Avoid that which I forbid you to do, and do that which I command you to do, to the best of your capacity. Verily, the people before you went to their doom, because they had put too many questions to their prophets, and then disagreed with their teachings. For those of you who are parents, you've probably said at some point, either said it or you may have yelled it, you said the phrase, because I said so. And it's not something parents say to be tyrants or because they just don't have some kind of intellectual justification for what they're asking or because they don't even know the answer themselves. You have an answer. You know why you told your child to do that. It's just, at some point, you become worn down by the never-ending questions and the mental energy that you expend trying to give a justification for every order. And, eventually, you just reach a breaking point, and you simply say, because I said so. And you feel, rightly so, that by this point, you should have earned a little trust that you really know what is best for this little person. Now, why can't they see that? Just do it because I said so. And that is basically what Muhammad is saying here. And yes, it is fair to think of his followers as similar to children at the time because religiously, nearly all of them were. This was not an area with a rich, sophisticated religious tradition. This wasn't Jesus walking into a Jewish temple where everyone's already familiar with the true God. These were pagans. Muhammad wasn't trying to help these people know their God better as Jesus was doing. These people were different. They were starting at square one. This was more like the apostles when they went out into the world, or Boniface in the German forest, or St. Patrick in Ireland. Now, these were, spiritually speaking, very primitive people. And much like the great Christians I just mentioned, Muhammad was one step removed from the holy figure he was talking about. In this case, obviously, it was God. And yet for his community, he was the only source of authority about that great holy figure that he was not. So he will inevitably be peppered with a ton of questions. And almost surely, some of these questions he's not going to be able to answer. Now, Muhammad claimed to be a prophet with only a single miracle, the Quran, which is a bit shorter by word count than the average novel. Now, that's not something that can really speak to every possible situation humans are going to run into. The Bible is actually 10 times longer than the Quran, and it can't do that either. So the Quran was never going to simply speak for itself. There would be questions, many questions, things that won't make sense to many people, things that may seem contradictory, things that are not addressed, a new possible exception this person thought of 5 seconds ago to this other thing, and probably some questions that have less than noble intentions. That was a reality too. Jesus got plenty of disingenuous questions. The most famous being probably, hey, is it right to pay taxes to the Romans? Now, Jesus was constantly surrounded by the smartest and most learned men in the region, peppering him with disingenuous questions. And because of the nature of his ministry, he had to answer them. Thus, the clever responses to give to Caesar what is Caesar's, all that kind of thing. These were grown-up, clever answers given to clever, cynical adults. And there were answers given in a childish way to more childish, innocent questions. And those were answered according to their context. But Jesus was able to differentiate between an innocent question and a cynical question. And he claimed to be divine rather than human, so he kind of had to answer those things with infinite patience. Now, Muhammad, on the other hand, he was just a man. And this is Muhammad saying here to his children, because I said so. You've got the gist of it. Now use your minds and stop asking about every little thing. And this, on Muhammad's part, is a recognition of his physical and mental limitations. He was a human after all. He is finite. And also a reminder that they were not the first community to be in this position. And he was not the first prophet to be in this position. Muhammad is stressing here, listen to the prophet that God has given you. And he gives a warning about previous civilizations which met their doom because they failed to listen to God's messengers. The most obvious of these would be the classic Old Testament people, like the people who didn't listen to Noah, the exile to Babylon, the exile after the destruction of the temple, the second temple actually, and so on. And just maybe, there was a little resignation in Muhammad's voice there because he may have suspected, boy, this might happen inevitably to my community in some way, sometime. This is a story you see over and over and over. Is this going to happen to my people? Now, as time went on, and Muhammad was exposed to more old Jewish stories, I'm sure some of them were even more startling than the ones he already knew, like how quickly the Israelites forgot what God had done for them in the Exodus, and how it takes just one generation asking a question and not liking the answer that the prophet gives to just spiral into this godless black hole of paganism and God knows what else. Like the 10 lost tribes of Israel, for example. Even they forgot the basics, the fundamentals, if you will. And as authoritarian as it may sound, sometimes, in situations like the one Muhammad faced, it may be better to just simply say, because I said so. After all, specific explanations can be picked apart over time, deconstructed, and undermined. But the words, because I said so, those stand forever. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next time. Insha'Allah.